Good morning students. Today we are going to study about thalamus. Before going to the topic, we will revise the parts of the brain. What are the parts of brain? Yes, brain is divided into prosencephalon, mesencephalon and rhombencephalon. Now the prosencephalon subdivides into telencephalon and diencephalon. Now this telencephalon give rise to the cerebral hemispheres, that is right and left. The cavity of each cerebral hemisphere is the lateral ventricle. Diencephalon is a large midline structure embedded inside the cerebrum. The cavity of diencephalon is the third ventricle. It includes thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus and subthalamus. In this picture, we can able to see that the thalamus is a part of the diencephalon. Now we will see in detail about the thalamus. The thalamus, it is a Greek word which means inner chamber or inner room. It is a part of diencephalon. The thalamus, it is a large grey matter which is located on either side of the third ventricle above to the midbrain. Here the green color is the thalamus, and this acts as a relay station for all sensation except olfaction. Next we will study about the external features of the thalamus. Thalamus, it is oval in shape. It has two ends and four surfaces. The two ends are anterior and posterior ends, and the four surfaces are superior, inferior, medial and lateral surfaces. Here we will see the ends of the thalamus. That is anterior end which is narrow, whereas the posterior end which is broad, which is also called as pulvinar. And here the surfaces of the thalamus. We can able to see the surfaces, that is medial, lateral, superior and inferior surfaces. Next we will study the relations of thalamus. First we will study about the relations of two ends. Anterior end which is narrow and that relates to the interventricular foramen. Now this anterior end of the thalamus which forms the posterior boundary to this interventricular foramen, and the posterior end which is broad and which gets related to the lateral geniculate body, medial geniculate body and the superior colliculus. Now this interventricular foramen which is related anteriorly to the thalamus, through which the lateral ventricle communicates with the third ventricle. Now relations of surfaces of thalamus. This can be studied with the cross section of the brain. Now first we will go with the superior surface. The superior surface is convex and it is related to fornix and the tela choroidae of lateral ventricle. Tela choroidae is nothing but the double layered pia mater. Now the medial part of the superior surface forms the floor of the central part of lateral ventricle. The lateral part of the superior surface relates to the caudate nucleus, stria terminalis and the thalamostriate vein. Now the medial surface which forms the upper part of the lateral wall of third ventricle, the right and left thalami are interconnected by an interthalamic adhesion on the medial surface. Now the lateral surface, it relates to the posterior limb of internal capsule. The lateral surface of the thalamus and the internal capsule is separated by a thin layer of white matter called external medullary lamina. The inferior surface that relates to the subthalamus. See here in this slide we can able to see the medial surface the two medial surfaces of the two thalami which are united by the interthalamic adhesion, and the lateral surface of the thalamus which is relating to the posterior limb of the internal capsule. Now in this slide I will show you the thalamus and its surrounding related structures. First find out the thalamus and go for an anterior and the posterior end. We already studied anterior end relates to the interventricular foramen of Monro. The posterior end, which is broad, and it is called the pulvinar, that relates to the lateral and medial geniculate body and also to the superior colliculus. And see the superior surface of the thalamus, here it relates to the fornix and the tila choroideae of the lateral ventricle. Then in front to the, medial to the thalamus, we can able to see the third ventricle. And there is an hypothalamic sulcus which is red in color that separates the thalamus from the hypothalamus. And below to that we can able to see the section of the midbrain with a cavity called the aqueduct of Sylvius. Then we can able to see the fourth ventricle which is present between the pons, medulla and to the cerebellum. And above to that a comma shaped structure which is called the corpus callosum can also able to see here. And in this picture the thalamus, which is related, the lateral part of the superior surface we studied, that is related to the caudate nucleus, but the thalamus and the caudate nucleus are separated by an sulcus called stria terminalis. And then the lateral surface, it relates to the posterior limb of the internal capsule. And now we are moving to the white matter of the thalamus. Thalamus, which is a grey matter, this is surrounded by some thin layers of white matter on its superior surface and on the lateral surface and within the thalamus. Now the white matter which is covering the superior surface of the thalamus is called the stratum zonale, and the thin layer of white matter which is covering the lateral surface is called the external medullary lamina. This external medullary lamina separates the posterior limb of the internal capsule from the thalamus, and there is an Y-shaped white matter inside the thalamus which is called the internal medullary lamina. Next we will study about the nuclei of thalamus. The thalamus is divided into three portions: anterior, medial and lateral, by a Y-shaped white matter called internal medullary lamina. It is divided into three portions: anterior nucleus, medial and lateral nucleus, by an Y-shaped lamella called internal medullary lamina. Here again showing the divisions of the nucleus, that is anterior, medial and lateral, by an internal medullary lamina. The lateral part is the largest part. Now this lateral again subdivided into the dorsal and the ventral part. Now the dorsal part divides into lateral dorsalis, lateral posterior and the pulvinar, along with medial and lateral geniculate bodies. Then the ventral part divides into ventral anterior nucleus, ventral lateral nucleus and the ventral posterior. The ventral posterior nucleus again subdivided into ventral posterolateral and ventral posteromedial nucleus. See again here in this diagram we can able to see the two thalami which are connected by an interthalamic adhesion, and the thalami is divided into, each thalamus is divided into three groups of nuclei by an Y-shaped white matter called internal medullary lamina, that is anterior, medial and lateral. The lateral is the largest part. Now the lateral portion is again divided or subdivided into dorsal and ventral part, the dorsal part divides into lateral dorsalis, lateral posterior and the pulvinar along with medial and lateral geniculate bodies. Then the ventral part divides into ventral anterior nucleus, ventral lateral nucleus, ventral and ventral posterior nucleus. Now this ventral posterior again divides into ventral posterior lateral and ventral posterior medial. Next we will study about the connections of thalamus. Each nuclei of the thalamus receives its afferent and efferent fibers from the other parts of the brain. First we will see the anterior nucleus of the thalamus and its connection. Now this anterior nucleus receives its afferent fibers from the mammillary body through mammillothalamic tract, and it gives efferent fibers to the limbic lobe, that is to the cingulate gyre, which is a part of an Papert circuit. The function of it is mainly responsible for recent memory, and it also plays an important role in determination of mood and emotion. Next is the medial nucleus. Now this medial nucleus or the dorsomedial nucleus, it receives its afferent fibers from the other thalamic nuclei, basal ganglion, hypothalamus and the amygdaloid nucleus, which is a part of the limbic system. It sends its efferent fibers to the prefrontal cortex, that is to the area 9, 10 and 11, 12, and this function is responsible for personality and emotion. And the next one is the ventral anterior and ventral lateral. Both the nucleus receives its afferent fibers from the basal ganglia and the cerebellum and gives its efferent fibers to the motor and the premotor areas. And this both nucleus plays a major function in maintaining the motor integrations. Here this is again the ventral lateral nucleus, which is receiving its afferent fibers from the basal ganglia and the cerebellum, giving its efferent fibers to the motor and the premotor area. And this both ventral lateral and the ventral nucleus, the major function is the motor integration. The next one is ventral posterior lateral nucleus, which is a very important nucleus. This receives general sensation from the whole part of the body except head through the spinothalamic tract, and it sends its efferent fibers to the sensory cortex, that is to the areas 3, 1 and 2, and the function is mainly doing sensory integration. Now the next is ventral posteromedial nucleus. Now this receives general sensation, that is pain, temperature, touch and proprioception only from the head through trigeminothalamic tract, and it also receives gustatory fibers from nucleus of Tractus solitarius through the solitariothalamic tract, and it sends its efferent to the sensory cortex of the parietal lobe, that is to the area 3, 1 and 2. This last, that is ventroposterolateral and the ventroposteromedial nucleus, are very important nucleus because their major function is doing sensory integration. The next is pulvinar. Pulvinar nucleus, it receives its afferent fibers from medial and lateral geniculate bodies and sends its efferent fibers to hearing and the visual cortex, and its function is it helps in orientation towards visual, auditory and other sensory stimuli. Next is medial geniculate body. It receives its afferent fibers from inferior colliculus and sends its efferent fibers to the hearing cortex, that is on the superior temporal lobe of area 41 and 42, and its function is it helps to relay the auditory input. Next is the lateral geniculate body. It receives its afferent fibers from the superior colliculus and sends its efferent fibers to the visual cortex, area number 17. Now the next is intralaminar and midline nucleus. These two nucleus are situated in the Y-shaped internal medullary lamina. It receives its afferent fibers from the reticular formation of the brainstem, and it gives its efferent fibers to the all parts of the cerebral cortex. The functions of this nucleus is it helps in arousal reaction, and it also helps in integration of general and somatic sensation. See here, there is other nucleus which is called the reticular nucleus, which also included under the thalamic nuclei, which is a thin flat sheath like nucleus which is situated between the posterior limb of the internal capsule and the external medullary lamina. It receives its afferent impulses from the reticular formation of the brainstem, and it gives its efferent impulses to the all parts of the cerebral cortex. And the function of this nucleus, it forms a part of the reticular activating system. Next again, we will summarize here the connections of the thalamus. First, we will move to the anterior nuclear group. We studied this receives its afferent fibers from the mammillary body through the mammillothalamic tract and sends its efferent fibers to the cingulate gyrus, and this plays an important role in mainly emotion and mood. Then the next one here is the medial nucleus, which receives its afferent fibers from the other thalamic nucleus and the amygdaloid nucleus, hypothalamus, basal ganglion, and it sends its efferent fibers to the prefrontal cortex, that is to the area 9, 10, 11 and 12. This is mainly responsible for the personality and emotion. Then the next is ventroanterior and the ventrolateral nucleus. They receive its afferent impulses from both the basal ganglion and the cerebellum and sends its efferent fibers to the motor and premotor area, and these two nucleus are responsible for motor integration. And the ventroposterior lateral, it receives general sensation from all part of the body and sends its afferent impulses to the areas 312, which is located in the parietal cortex, and the ventroposterior medial nucleus, which receives the general sensation from the head and it sends its efferent to the sensory areas 3, 1 and 2. And this ventroposterolateral and the ventroposteromedial plays an important role in sensory integration. And the pulvinar nucleus, which receives the sensory impulses from the medial and lateral geniculate body, and it gives its efferent fibers to the hearing and the visual cortex. And the medial geniculate body, it receives its impulses from the inferior colliculus and sends to the hearing cortex, that is to the superior temporal lobe, area number 41 and 42. And the lateral geniculate body, it receives its afferent impulses from the superior colliculus and sends its efferent to the visual cortex, particularly to the area 17. This is again the summary of the connections of the thalamus. The next is functions of thalamus. Thalamus, it acts as an relay station for all the sensation except olfaction. At the level of the thalamus, the pain, thermal and the tactile sensations were recognized, and the thalamus, it also influences the voluntary movement through basal ganglion, cerebellum and cerebrum. And in connection with the ascending activating system, the thalamus plays an important role in maintaining the state of wakefulness and alertness. The thalamus, which is receiving impulses from the hypothalamus and projecting its impulses through the prefrontal and the cingulate gyrus, this part helps in determination of mood, and this also plays an important role in recent memory and emotion with a connection with that of the cingulate gyrus. The next one is thalamic radiation. Thalamic radiation means it is a collection of nerve fibers which are connecting the thalamus with that of the cerebral cortex. Now this is divided into 4 groups. They are the superior thalamic radiation, then anterior thalamic radiation, inferior thalamic radiation and posterior thalamic radiation. In this diagram you can able to see the 4 thalamic radiation, that is superior thalamic radiation, anterior thalamic, inferior thalamic and posterior thalamic radiation. These radiations are nothing but they are the collections of nerve fibers that are connecting the thalamus to that of the other parts of the cerebral cortex. Now first we will move to the superior thalamic radiation. Superior thalamic radiation, it connects the ventral anterior, ventral lateral and the ventral posterior nuclei of the thalamus to the motor, premotor and the sensory cerebral cortex. And the next is anterior thalamic radiation that connects the anterior part of the thalamus to the prefrontal cortex and the cingulate gyrus, and that the anterior thalamic radiation which plays mainly in concerning with the personality and emotion. Then the next one is inferior thalamic radiation. This connects the medial geniculate body to the auditory cortex, and the posterior thalamic radiation that connects the lateral geniculate body to the visual cortex, and all these radiations they pass through the internal capsule. Next, blood supply to the thalamus. The blood supply is mainly by the branches of the posterior cerebral artery. They are the paramedian thalamic, subthalamic arteries, thalamo-geniculate artery and the posterior choroidal arteries. Next, we will study about the applied anatomy of thalamus. Damage to the thalamus may occur due to any vascular lesion, particularly to the posterior cerebral artery and its branches. That may result in a number of problems that are related to the sensory perception. First, when there is any lesion over the anterior nucleus that cause memory deficit, and the lesion over the medial nucleus which is called as an Korsakoff syndrome that results in difficulty in remembering new information, and the lesions over the ventral anterior and ventral nuclei that causes interruption of basal ganglion input that may result in akinesia, that is loss of voluntary movement. Next, unilateral lesion in ventral posterolateral and ventral posteromedial nucleus causes loss of general sensation from the contralateral side of the whole body. This is called thalamic pain syndrome. In this, the individual may experience excessive pain or loss of sensation from the whole part of the body, and this is a rare neurological syndrome. The next one is lesion in the pulvinar can produce neglect or attention deficit syndrome. Lesion in lateral geniculate body results in contralateral homonymous hemianopia, and bilateral lesion of medial geniculate body causes auditory deficit, and the lesion in intralamellar thalamic nuclei, that is intralaminar thalamic nuclei we studied already, that is responsible for arousal. During its lesion, the individual produce unresponsiveness, but their eyes remains open. This condition is called coma vigil or akinetic mutism. And the next is thalamic aphasia, lesion over the left thalamus that cause defect in language production, word production and voice volume, etc. The next one is thalamic hand. Sometimes in thalamic lesion, the contralateral wrist is flexed, pronated, and the metacarpophalangeal joints flexed and the interphalangeal joints extended. But the fingers can move slowly. This may be due to the altered muscle tone in different muscle groups. Now you identify what is the structure in the given picture. This is the CT scan of brain in axial view to show the normal structure thalamus and its location. The next, this is the sagittal view to show the location of normal thalamus. Thank you.